Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now today I want to talk about something that I think probably about 95% of people are going to miss in this upcoming cycle, and that's this hidden like super cycle or narrative or whatever you want to call it that I think is upcoming that no one's really paid too much attention to, but we've heard about it constantly. And so I think it's one of those things where people just haven't really kind of seen it laid out in front of them yet, and once they do, like it'll be completely obvious, right? And so that's what I want to do today. I want to go into that, take a closer look into what that could be, what that means, what that looks like, all that type of stuff. And what I'm talking about today is essentially unlocking the liquidity of Bitcoin. So this is something that I think is kind of like the holy grail for basically every crypto project. I think in past cycles and even kind of at the start of this cycle, I think there was a lot of like, okay, well, what's the ETH killer? What's the Bitcoin killer? What's this? What's that? What's this? And then there was kind of a transition to like, okay, well, Bitcoin's a thing all its own. Now we're essentially fighting over the rest, right? ETH killer, Solana killer, this, that, new Gen 3, this, whatever, all those types of things. Well, now what I think we're starting to see a transition toward, and it's happened pretty quietly, but I think once people catch on to it, it's going to be the only thing people can see and talk about. And that is, okay, well, Bitcoin's a $2 trillion asset. It's at this point about 60% of the total crypto market. Like, how can we grab a piece of that and bring it to our chain, right? Because in some cases, even for 1% of Bitcoin is, I think, like $20 billion, right? So even for some, like, let's say Sui, if Sui's able to unlock 1% of Bitcoin's liquidity, they're going to like triple their market cap, right? Because they're only sitting at like a $10 billion market cap right now. And so there's a lot of like really, really strong opportunity here. Same thing with like Ethereum. If Ethereum can unlock 10% of Bitcoin's liquidity, that's $200 billion. That's like a 40% raise within their current market cap. So there's a ton of liquidity sitting on Bitcoin. And so I think the gold rush is going to be going in it and trying to find that. So let's dive on in and start out to look at the crypto bubbles. We can see overall market looking pretty good on the day. A little bit of red here and there, but overall pretty green day. We've seen a relatively strong bounce from that little pullback that we were seeing. As we've seen, and if you've probably already noticed, the pullbacks in crypto have been, I would say, short, small, and very, very fleeting, right? So if you see a pullback, it usually doesn't last too long, and then we're kind of continuing on our way back up. We can see Hyperliquid been doing very, very well recently. Same with the Virtuals protocol. Sui back to its old antics of leading the way up. Aptos doing really quite well as well. We are seeing Lido, Aave, some of these others, Maker, some of these other like Ethereum staking type of things going on. Overall, we did see an announcement from President-elect Trump today that I think is probably the main reason that a lot of these are running. So we are going to look into that here a little bit later. But right now, at least, I want to focus on Bitcoin specifically, because what we can see is we have reclaimed over the $100,000 mark. We did see a little bit of a momentary pullback. Like I said, they've been pretty short, but enough to kind of scare people a little bit, and then we kind of see another move to the upside. I do still think we're probably going to see some level of larger pullback. I don't know if we kind of stop out at this like lower 90 range. I don't know. Maybe we come back to this trend line and find something into like the mid or upper 80s. I think that's something that we could also see as well. I think there's a lot of possibilities here, but I do think a period of sustained pullback is a possibility. I'm not going to say it's the most likely outcome, but I do think that that is something that we should be on the lookout for. And with these kind of momentary pullbacks, I am wondering if this is almost kind of like getting people ready for that, where they see some type of pullback like this go in super heavy and then it continues to go down and a whole bunch of people get liquidated. Could be a possibility. I'm not certain, but it is something that I'm continuing to take a look at. We've not seen Bitcoin hit new all-time highs yet, just because we did have that wick over here on the 5th of December, where we did see basically a massive move up and down all within the same day. So a huge day of volatility here. We haven't seen anything like that quite yet, but overall Bitcoin looking pretty decent. If you are wanting to trade Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, XRP, anything like that for that matter, feel free to use my link in the description below. I am still working with BTCC, and they are still providing the 10% bonus on first time deposits, which is a really, really good deal if you ask me. I mean, if you're looking for a place to trade anyway, you might as well get that extra 10% on the money you're going to be depositing anyway. Doesn't seem to be any reason not to. This is all in addition to the extra bonuses of up to $10,055 per user that they have. So that's another really great option if you are looking for a new place to trade. They've been around for 13 years, so you don't really need to worry about them being one of those like pop-up exchanges that does come around every so often in new bull runs and whatnot. They can have up to 300 plus crypto futures, also 500x leverage. I never trade 500x leverage, but if you do for whatever reason, they do have that option. Then also no VPN or KYC necessary. today. So if you're interested, like I said, feel free to check out the link in the description and go ahead and start trading. So now moving on, I want to discuss what we're seeing on DeFi Llama, because we've seen Bitcoin's TVL basically completely explode within the past, let's just call it year, but even more recently. I mean, even after like mid-October, we've seen it really start to move up. And then even before that, during kind of the halving time period, we also did see a pretty strong move up as well. So lots of really crazy things. We can see Bitcoin is actually the 5th in line in terms of TVL, ahead of Base, ahead of Arbitrum, ahead of Sui, ahead of Polygon, ahead of Optimism, ahead of Cardano. A lot of these super crazy, what we would call like, kind of future of crypto type places, and what we've seen a lot of activity on recently, Bitcoin's ahead of all of them, right? And so the only things Bitcoin is behind is BSC, Tron, Solana, and Ethereum, which I think makes sense kind of given the ecosystems that those have all developed. And given that Bitcoin is kind of the OG, it's also kind of the new kid on the block as well, because you haven't really been able to do anything particularly interesting on Bitcoin until somewhat recently. And this is ever changing. There are continually new projects coming onto Bitcoin. They're always looking to do things to make Bitcoin more expressive, smart contracts, lending, staking, all of this type of stuff. And so that, the stable coins is another one that's also coming, I forgot to mention. So there's a lot of this type of stuff that is really actually, I think, going to really dramatically change Bitcoin. But also what we've seen from an external perspective outside of Bitcoin, we've seen a ton of crypto projects actually looking to essentially unlock Bitcoin via their own chain, right? And so if we look at CoinGecko, we can go over essentially the market caps that we've even just seen talk about this recently within the past couple of days. So we've seen XRP talk about it through their XRP Ledger app. This is one where they're essentially trying to integrate bridging with Bitcoin essentially. We've seen Cardano talk about the same thing. These are the 4th and 9th largest cryptos by market cap. So obviously, very, very big players thinking and talking about this. We've seen a push from both the Solana and the Bitcoin side, not necessarily a push from an official source per se, but we have seen a push from both the Bitcoin and Solana side to try and integrate those two. My guess would be because they both use Rust as their programming language, so it's possibly easier than potentially integrating with a Solidity based language. But we have seen a lot of push for that. This is the 5th largest cryptocurrency by market cap. Also, if we move down a little bit, we have seen quite a bit, and I've talked about this a fairly decent amount on the channel, but Internet Computer is making a ton of moves to essentially try and work to integrate both Bitcoin and Ethereum all essentially together natively. So this is one where they're essentially trying to unlock a lot of that value on their chain through both Bitcoin and Ethereum. So I do think there's a lot of stuff here that I think we need to be tuned into. I mean, there's a ton of really big players going in and trying to figure out how to unlock Bitcoin. And that takes us to the next thing that we saw on Twitter from President-elect Trump. He was talking about crypto and AI today. Obviously, AI has been a really, really big thing on crypto as well. So this is something where I'm also kind of thinking that we're going to see a big push into Bitcoin from President Trump as well, because obviously he's talking about crypto more generally, and I would say Trump is more crypto informed than probably most of people in government are. So I don't think this means just Bitcoin only, but I do think when we start to see a lot of institutions, governments, things like that getting involved within crypto, their first place to look is going to be Bitcoin, right? And so if there's a way to essentially unlock the value that is stored within Bitcoin, that essentially is going to make a turbocharger for whatever chain is able to do that and essentially make Bitcoin more expressive, all that type of stuff. So this is something that I wanted to pay really close attention to as we kind of make our way through, because with the US government essentially kind of now on board, there's going to be a ton of eyes drawn into crypto. And so in my opinion, this is a time where we really need to be focused on keeping up on upcoming narratives, upcoming trends, making sure that we're understanding how the market is kind of moving, what it's looking at. Like I said, in my opinion, I do kind of hold this prediction or bias or whatever you want to call it, that I think there's going to be a massive, massive push on Bitcoin. I think this might be the cycle of Bitcoin. I think it's good. Frankly, I think it's going to be the cycle of everything, right? But I do think one of the biggest winners within the cycle is going to be Bitcoin, just because it is the OG. It has the name. It's got the following. Most importantly, it's got the liquidity. There's a lot of stuff sitting on Bitcoin essentially that makes it really, really powerful for people to try and unlock the value of. And so anyway, I want to talk about that today just to kind of give you guys a sense of what I'm seeing within the market. I'd love to hear your thoughts, whether you agree, disagree, are indifferent, any of that type of stuff, please drop those in the comment section below. I do try to read and respond to all of those. As I've said, things have gotten busier over the past month or so, and so I am a little bit slower on getting to my replies, but I'm still trying to get there, and it is still my goal to read and respond to every single comment. So hopefully you found the information in this video useful. If you did, please do give me a like and subscribe, because it really, really does help me out. I am still trying to continue to grow my channel. I did check my analytics yesterday, and I do realize that I actually have 10,000 people who are watching on a somewhat recurring basis, but less than, or I guess just over about a quarter of that subscribers. So if you would, go ahead and subscribe. It really, really does help me out, probably far more than you could think. So if you would do that, I'd really, really appreciate it. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.